the different generations that are represented in our company now are our greatest strength. And I wouldn't have said that a dozen years ago, admittedly, but I fully embrace and feel that way now.
Hmm.
I see the value of all this intergenerational activity that goes on in the different viewpoints. Because think about it. I don't know how old you are, it doesn't really matter. But my
25.
guess
Yep.
is, my guess is when you started school as a kid, you had some sort of electronic device in school. Do you know when I had my first laptop, what age I was?
No idea.
I was 28 years old.
Hmm.
Do you know when I had my first cell phone? 33. I mean, I used to wear a pager, dude. So the point is, when you understand what's going on in the digital world and you understand that people are not looking at the physical world the same way I look at the physical world because of the way I came up.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Business of Learning podcast. My guest here today is Greg Gorgone, who is a co-founder and president at Pineapple Academy. Greg, welcome.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. Tell everyone a little bit more about Pineapple Academy, what you guys are all about, and who you help.
Sure. So we've been around about 6.5 years. The work my business partner and I have been doing has gone on longer than that. We're very focused on the frontline staff. We're very focused on training employees in
Hmm.
onboarding and career development. And so we had developed, first, initially, we were a content developer. And then we started moving into technology because we realized that everybody needs that content delivered in a different way.
Hmm.
And so we're not trying to push our agenda on what you use and how you do it. We're
Hmm.
just trying to give you a library and the backbone and the data analytics to get that data to your frontline staff.
Very, very awesome. Is there a specific industry that you guys usually tend to lean towards,
Yeah.
or is it all over the place?
So, no, we try to stay fairly focused. My background is in food service operations and hospitality operations
Mm,
for decades. And so I got into the healthcare field in 2008. And
mm,
so I've been very focused in acute care hospitals and also senior living. And
hmm,
as you probably know, due to the aging and shifting demographics here in this country, there's quite a need for training. And there's
hmm.
quite a gap in training and information flow to the frontline staff. And there's just not enough staff. So we recognize the need that operators have to get their people trained and give them the tools they need so they can be
Hmm.
successful starting right out of the gate.
Yeah, 1000%. And I think I actually had this conversation with someone else as well, where they were mentioning this specific industry where there's the increasing need, but then the decreasing actual, the education, I guess, and the training that goes on
It really
internally
is.
in companies.
When you stop and take a look, and by the way, I mean, we're getting into college universities. We can easily transition into restaurants and hotels, which we're going to do all of that.
Mm,
But these two markets in particular, we've been focused on because our network, we know a lot of people,
mm,
and we have a lot of relationships, and so we take advantage of that.
hmm,
But as the platform gets better developed and we have more bells and whistles, in our marketing efforts increase, we can easily grow into other market segments, but it's the same story. It's about supporting the frontline staff. You have
mm,
to understand 70% of the workforce does not have the luxury of sitting at a desk and using a laptop or desktop.
hmm.
They are on their feet. They're on the move all the time.
Yeah.
And so they might get an assignment like, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. And maybe they've never done it before, or it's been a long time. And boom, right there in the workflow, they can watch a short form video and see how it's done. And
Hmm.
so a lot of this is task oriented. So, thinking slicing and dicing in a kitchen, think about repairing something in the workspace
Hmm.
or cleaning. So these are things that happen every single day, and unfortunately, there's right ways and wrong ways of doing it.
Hmm.
And so what we try to do is provide tools for managers and their staff so everyone can be successful.
That's so interesting. And I love to ask a question. because it seems like there's two sides to this situation here. One is companies have been doing maybe there's a resistance to adopting this new form of training just because they've been using the old or been doing the old methodologies for however many years they've been
Sure.
around, right? But the other side of it as well as is it just actually, let me reframe this. Is it just that where they have been so used to just kind of going along and somebody comes in and they train it as best as they can and hope for the best? Or is it also the side of they just don't understand how to do that proper training, how to create that content, how to create something that will elicit the results that they're looking for in the new employees that they bring? Do you think that there's I guess, a balance there?
I think it's a mixture of all those things for sure,
Mm,
and not to mention budgets,
mm,
and also just the expectations of team members.
mm,
The market's changed quite a bit. I mean, technology and social media and all these things have really changed the landscape.
mhm,
I do this one presentation I do, talks about the workforce and what's happening and kind of gives you a historical perspective, what has gone on over the last 50 years. 50 years ago, heck, even 30 years ago, many companies had formal training programs. They had people in the operations training people as they come in.
mhm.
Well, over time, those jobs have been cut. Over time, managers are not being trained how to train others. And then over time, you have basically what happens is you have managers who start taking over operations that really might not be ready to do that,
Yeah.
but they happen to be there. And so tag, you're it.
Yeah.
The story I like to tell is in senior living, I call it the blind leading the blind, leading the blind, which means in senior living, as an example, most of your owners and administrators have never been in the restaurant or hospitality business.
Hmm.
And yet, food service is a big piece of what their clients are looking for when they go into a community. Let's face it, if you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, really the highlight of your day is going to the dining room, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens is you have leadership that doesn't really understand.
Hmm.
You have people who get hired at whatever, let's say a pot washer, and 5 years later, they're the last man or gal standing, and tag, they become the manager.
Hmm.
So, God bless them that they're still there and they're willing
Yeah.
to show up every day, do the work, but they've never been trained to be a manager, they've never been trained to be a
Mhm.
trainer, and they don't know how to mentor and take care of their staff.
Mhm. And it's so interesting that you bring that up because it's kind of like you're what we've got and we need this thing to be sorted. So best of luck.
And that's exactly right. It's a lick and a promise. But as you know, I mean, it's human nature. Nobody wants to look bad. Nobody
Mhm.
wants to not know what to do. Uh, in my many years of operations and managing people, 95% of employees want to do a good job.
Mhm.
Nobody wants to be looked upon as a slacker or unknowledgeable or not be part of the team. The problem is that knowledge transfer is so weak. And so, today we have managers who really, 20 years ago, they would have never got the job.
Hmm.
And again, nothing against them. It's just that if we don't give them the tools to be successful themselves,
Mhm.
how do we expect them to enjoy success, but how do we expect the hourly frontline staff to do their job if there's
Hmm.
not leadership there to show them like, hey, here's how you do it. This is how you walk and chew gum at the same
Mhm.
time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the intention can be there, but the execution and the resources
Exactly.
also have to be there to
That's
supplement it all.
exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly right. Well
It's
said.
awesome. And, Greg, tell me a little bit more about Pineapple Academy and as what
Sure.
made you even think about this thing? I can see that you have
Sure.
a great love for pineapples, of
Oh, I
course.
do.
So,
Right.
talk to me about the origin of this entire thing.
So, as I mentioned, I transitioned into the healthcare space in 2008, coming from the hotel industry, and I had been in
Mhm,
it for decades. And so I got into healthcare not knowing whether I was gonna like it or not, and it turns out I like the people are great. I mean, let's face it, most people that are in healthcare or senior living, they have a good heart and they're really trying to do the right thing.
mhm,
And so I quickly realized with my hospitality background, I had something to offer people. And so for a period of about 10 to 12 years, I was traveling around the country, literally doing training and process improvement projects in
Mhm.
hospitals, senior living, all around.
Mhm.
And so you start seeing the same problems over and over and over again. And what I call that, what I was observing is a lack of fundamentals. And
Hmm.
so, you know, there's a thing called gradient of learning. So it's like you have to start, think of a pair of stairs, a set of stairs. You have to start at the bottom of the stairs to get to the top,
Yeah.
right? And so it's the same thing in the workflow or work knowledge. You
Hmm.
have to go to the first tier, then the next, and then the next.
Yeah.
So what's happening is people are getting thrown in and we're telling them they need to start 5 steps ahead of where they're at. They don't even know. So you say, I need you to do XYZ. They don't even know what ABC was.
Mhm.
And
The sequence
so
is incorrect.
out of sequence, perfect. And so what we do is what my business partner Tucker Graves and I recognize is that we've got to teach people the fundamentals so that they can have a foundation so they can move up
Mhm.
and increase their knowledge base and their effectiveness. So we start with regulatory compliance. We start with how to do everything from how to do hand washing to how to use a knife to how to clean every surface, how to do all the fundamentals that you really need to know. Meanwhile, traditional education, whether it be at the high school level, the community college level, or the bachelor's degree programs,
Mm.
they become very, very, very expensive. And
Mhm.
so it's really difficult to take someone and get them through these programs, put debt on them,
Hmm.
whether it's 20, 30, 40, 50,
Yeah.
$60,000, go into a workplace and they're making at entry level 30, $40,000 a year. The math doesn't work. And so what you have is a lot of these schools, a lot of these programs have died. I mean, they've just gone away. That people just can't afford them. And so now you have people coming into the workforce who really need a way to learn the job. And they might be very excited about it, but they walk into a situation and suddenly they get disillusioned because it's
Mhm.
like it's chaos. It's like it's just a tough environment.
Mhm.
And so now with a platform, think of us as a YouTube for work, right?
Mm.
A very controlled environment, YouTube, that we do. And so now you could actually at the moment go, oh, I need to know how to do this,
Yeah.
and I can do it. And so, I watch a video, and there's different ways that we can deliver that content in the workflow when it's needed. And so now people can be successful on the job, and that's what
Hmm.
we're trying to do.
Interesting. And why pineapple? Is that your favorite fruit?
No, actually, a pineapple, it represents hospitality.
Huh.
And so we feel that, in the markets that we serve, hospitality is very important, whether it's retail, whether it's food
Yeah.
service, whatever. Hospitality is where it's at, right? And so it's sort of a lost art in many ways. And so
Mhm.
and people have overcomplicated things. But at the end of the day, it is a symbol for hospitality. And we just felt it would be a good representation of what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a hospitality environment
Mhm.
by people giving them the knowledge. I mean, think about it.
Mm.
The more you know about your job, the friendly you are, the more ease you have, and you're not as stressed out at work, right? And
Mhm.
so
Awesome. And
you can
go ahead,
extend
sorry.
that.
Yeah, and I think everybody also loves pineapple, so it works great. I don't
Exactly. There's
I've
no
never met anyone
downside to
who
it.
doesn't.
We have lots of fun with pineapples. I mean, we use, our platform is called Pina. And
Oh, that's
so
funny.
yeah, right. So, I mean, we don't call our and it's a knowledge platform. We don't have an LMH. We have a knowledge platform. We call it
Mhm.
Pina. We have different things and things we play with pineapple, and people like it. It's fun.
Awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah,
And Greg, talk to me a little bit about maybe the challenges as you guys were starting to grow the business.
sure.
Maybe when it was the I guess the transition of Actually, no, the transition was for you personally back then, but talk to me about some of the challenges as you were growing
Yeah,
the business and maybe how they differ from the challenges that you have now.
sure. So probably the number one thing to understand is that we got hyper focused on content because we had to build a library.
Mhm.
So we were very focused on that, and we were a very, very small team, and we were bootstrapping this thing together, right?
Mm.
And so, what happened was we started having these great, sales potentials and looking at things, and people were going, guys, we really want to use your content, but you got to put your content in our learning management platform.
Hmm.
So, as you probably know, in this space, LMSs use SCORM file 1.2, right? And so we had to learn how to convert all of our content into SCORM files and
Hmm.
to be able to export them without ever really leaving our database. And so that we can give data analytics back to the person and we can keep our IP. So that was kind of our first tech type foray.
Mhm.
But then time goes on. Now, oh, we don't want this in the LMS. We only want this piece, but we want this over here. So
Mhm.
then we started we created a unique URL link for those
Mhm.
videos using those SCORM files or those SCORM files,
Mhm.
so that those unique URL links now are the identifier of that organization.
Hmm.
So, like, my URL link will be different than your URL link, even if we're watching the same video,
Hmm.
because we can track which organizations are watching it.
Yeah.
And then we take it a step further. In order to access the content for the user, they have to put in a PIN number. And that PIN number is unique to that individual. It could be
Mhm.
4 digits, it could be 20 digits, it could be whatever the organization uses. Because most employees, hourly
Right.
employees, do not have an email address, right? I'm talking about a work one. They have personal ones, but
Yeah.
companies don't want to get into that, right? And so now you don't need an email to work with us. You don't need to have any of that. We make it so easy to access that URL link. We can embed it into other software.
Mm.
We can do it through a push notification, and we can do it in an old-fashioned QR code, right? But our QR codes, you have to download them as the user because it's unique to your organization.
Mhm. And it's just
So now
always brings that attribution.
So yeah, so I can hand you a piece of paper for onboarding that has a list of QR codes to go, here you go. Here's your first week of lineups. You need to hit these QR codes by the end of the week.
Mhm.
Or there's a QR code on a piece of equipment, or there's a QR code in a workspace, how to set that station up, or a chemical closet. This is how you mix the chemicals or use this or
Mhm.
whatever. And so it makes it really easy. The employee does not have to go to the manager and go, hey, how do I find out about this?
Mhm. Yeah. That's so
You do it
interesting.
on your own. You're
Yeah,
autonomous.
it sounds like that it was all like, I guess, the tech or the intertwinings of how everything goes down there on the back end. And what about now? How's what are some of the things that are possible, I guess, obstacles within the company?
I think the biggest obstacle, if as you were from a marketing, position right now, is understanding that we're not competing against other platforms or other companies that are doing something like we are because we're the only ones kind of doing this.
Hmm.
What we're competing against is our customers who are not familiar with how simple it is to execute this, or
Hmm.
customers who don't even realize they go, "Oh, we already have an L&D director. Oh, we already have an LMS."
Hmm.
Yeah, but the majority of LMSs used for frontline training is for onboarding from an HR perspective and a regulatory compliance,
Mm.
right? Which is valid, except that when you go into the operation, it doesn't teach you how to do your job.
Mm. So it sounds like the people you speak with, they don't have the education to understand fully how it works and how it's gonna benefit
Yeah.
as opposed to the other companies, is that correct?
Yes. So if we were just like,
Mm.
being an LMS like everybody else, and you're having dialogue, people seem to understand that, except that we don't want to be an LMS. Number
Mhm.
one, most LMSs are bloated. They're very expensive. You're paying for the platform. You have to do subscriptions, all
Hmm.
this. We don't have that. What we have is we have a usage model. So think of it as an old style cell phone. You're going to buy 100 hours of long distance calling or whatever,
Yeah.
or
That's so funny you bring
gigabyte.
that up because that doesn't even exist anymore, I think now, but
No,
it used
it
yeah.
does not, you know.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
But now, because we would get pushback initially, it was like, let's just say $100 per person per year, right?
Sure.
As a subscription, which sounds pretty reasonable price wise, but you have people going, well, my turnover is 100%. My turnover is 150%.
Hmm.
My dishwashers don't need the same number of hours as my cooks and my chefs and my supervisors.
Sure.
Perfectly reasonable, right? So we came up with this methodology, and it's all done in the back end and nothing for the customer to worry about. And we give them a template to build out the number of hours per year they need for onboarding and training by position,
Hmm.
by location. So now we just come up with a formula and we go, good, you need 1,000 hours. Here's the price.
Hmm.
You go up to
Very, very
5,000 hours, the price comes down. Go up to 10,000 hours, price comes down. What do you do at home when you want to learn how to do something to fix something at home?
yeah, just always some pillow yeah.
You go to YouTube,
Yeah.
right? That's it's the same thing
That's
that
so
that
interesting.
we're doing, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, where was I before the drama?
No, yeah,
Sorry.
you were mentioning, how everything is very specific, and customized per customer by
It
what they
really
need.
it really is. And
Yeah.
so really, what we're doing now
Mhm.
is now we're opening our platform up.
Mhm.
And so now we're looking for content providers. So if you're
Mm.
a subject matter expert in the markets that we serve, then hey, let's get your content on our platform. Let us do a revenue share. We'll manage the whole thing. You just get a check in the mail. I mean, it's just like clockwork, right? We have partners. We work with a lot of like consultants, people who are, again, subject matter experts. They have a
Mhm.
client bases. They're trying to solve problems for that client. And inevitably, every single consultant you talk to, what's the number one problem they're faced against for the client? The lack of training, the
Mm.
lack of knowledge. So we become a tool for them. So really, our growth strategy is, yes, marketing, but number two is really finding these partners and these subject matter experts who are content providers who are on a journey with that customer to help them get to the next level.
Mm.
So that's how we're growing. Most of our sales actually doesn't come from internal, it actually comes from external sources.
Hmm, very, very interesting. Greg, this has been great. I have actually 2 more questions here for you,
Yeah.
if that's okay. One is a question that I've been asking everybody, because I think oftentimes in business, we're so focused on what's happening now and the problems and the issues and the fires and whatever else. So this allows that kind of, the thinking to go elsewhere. So I'll ask that first. And the question is, if you had a magic wand and you could just wave this amazing wand and it can solve one thing, often there are many, but just one thing in the business that will help you with your growth goals, your client acquisition goals, whatever that might be. What's the one thing you'd like to solve in the business?
That's I would say the one thing would be the ability to have more points of sale.
Hmm.
Um, our marketing journey has really been great. We work with a service that we're just bringing on. We
Mm,
actually are looking at bringing on a full time SaaS based marketing individual that hopefully will be on board here in the next, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks.
mm,
And so we feel very confident in our marketing abilities and our storytelling,
mm,
but at the same time, I would like to have more sales points out there in the industry representing our brand
mhm.
and
Awesome.
talking about pineapple. But
Awesome.
like in this country, it'd be hard pressed to go to any healthcare or senior living conference that hasn't at least heard of us. Our
Mm.
brand awareness is pretty strong.
Awesome. Very, very cool. That's always nice to hear when it comes to
Right.
people know who we are. It's just how do we get that thing going?
Exactly.
And
Right.
then here is a final question for you, Greg. It's actually not a question from me. It's a question from the last guest to you, and they had no idea who you were.
Oh,
You ready for this?
sure.
And this one actually is a bit of a special one because there's a preface to it. The preface is a quote. I don't remember who exactly the quote is from, but the quote is, "There are no solutions, only trade-offs." And they brought this up because here's their question: What are the most what is the most significant trade-off you are facing in your business right now? And which way are you leaning and why?
Wow.
Yeah.
Is this somebody I know?
This is not somebody you know, or maybe you know them, but this is every podcast, and I humbly stole this from a guy called Stephen Bartlett. He's a great entrepreneur, has his own podcast, and he has a section where he gets the guest to ask the next guest a question, and I find it so cool because it gets to questions like this that are so often awesome that I personally wouldn't have thought of. So yeah, here it
So
is.
let's start internally. Let's start
Sure.
within a company. So, yes, I am a co-founder. Yes, I am the senior person in the company in terms of age and experiences and whatnot. And so, the one thing I had to learn over time is, just because I would see things through Greg's lens doesn't necessarily mean it's the right solution at the right time.
Hmm.
My biggest problem has always been I've been too far ahead. Some would even call me a futurist in the sense that, the ability to project out what's going on. I look for market trends. I speak to a lot of people. I've just been in this a long time. And so I'm able to evaluate and understand the pain points. And so um, sometimes I get ahead of myself.
Hmm.
And what's difficult when you're working with a team is having the resources and the ability to get that machine to go as fast as you want it to go.
Hmm.
And so what I've had to learn is some patience, and more empathy and more understanding, but also the understanding that the different generations that are represented in our company now are our greatest strength.
Hmm.
And I wouldn't have said that a dozen years ago, admittedly. But I fully embrace and feel that way now.
Hmm.
I see the value of all this intergenerational activity that goes on in the different viewpoints. Because think about it. I don't know how old you are, it doesn't really matter. But
25. Yep.
my guess is when you started school as a kid, you had some sort of electronic device in school. Do you know when I had my first laptop, what age I was? I was
No
20
idea.
I was 28 years old.
Hmm.
Do you know when I had my first cell phone? I was 33.
Hmm.
I mean, I used to wear a pager, dude.
You're 35 now, right? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm 35. God, you're great. I love you. So the point is, when you understand what's going on in the digital world and you understand that people are not looking at the physical world the same way I look at the physical world because of the way I came up, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Today, people learn differently. They look at the world differently than I do. And so when I look at my peers that are in my age group, let's just call it the 55 to 70 thing, it's like I remind them all the time. It's like, look, dude, you're on the way out the door. It's
Hmm.
like there's all this young energy behind us, and it's time for them to take the reins.
Hmm.
Our job is just to transfer understanding and knowledge about the industries that we serve and let them get on with it.
Hmm.
And that's I think been one of the toughest things that I personally have to work through, but I am also the proudest that I'm on that other side now of that. It's like I look at myself now as a bridge.
Hmm.
That's all. I'm just a bridge between I call them the oldie moldies, and I put myself in that lump and the young energy that's coming up, right?
Hmm.
And just trying to point out to my peers, like, look, they have a lot to say, and
Mhm.
frankly, they have a lot better skill sets in many ways than we used to.
Hmm.
Uh, but they have gaps, just like we have gaps, you know. And we just have to learn how to teach each other how to do these things because
Yeah.
It's just better for everybody.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. I love how you brought it up. One, the fact that it's sometimes hard to accept for I think this happens maybe I'm not sure. I haven't been in every generation, but it feels like
Sure.
it happens in every generation, right? So,
Oh, easy.
one yeah, right? So that one is the awareness of that, of like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of right now, my goal is to just do this thing, be the bridge, transfer the knowledge, and just applying that." So I think that's really, really awesome. So,
Yeah.
yeah, Greg, thank you. Go ahead.
And think about the generations, the older generations, they're much
Yeah.
longer and longer periods, right? The advent of technology has sped that up so much faster. And
Mhm.
so all these, XYZ, whatever you want to call whoever, which I hate these damn labels, just to be clear. I don't like labels.
Sure.
Uh there is the rate of technology that changes that
Mhm.
perspective in those
Yeah.
generations. Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, 100%. It's Moore's law. I think what is it? Every 2 years it doubles or
Right,
something along the line. It's like
right,
that exponential curve has already happened, and
right,
we're so high up that we're, like, kinda curving back now or something.
right.
I don't even know, right? So
It's breathtaking. And we're all at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
yeah.
And at the end of the day, we're all have the same struggles, we all have the same aspirations, we're all trying to do the right thing. But
Mhm.
but also the stress of technology has changed the way we view things and
Hmm.
how we deal with stuff.
Yeah.
Some of it's good, and let's face it, some of it is not so good.
Yeah.
And so, and it's kind of hard for me uh, to watch, particularly when I see young people in their teens and 20s and 30s struggling with things, like social media anxiety, that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Let me tell you something. Back in my day, you know what social anxiety was? It's like, walking down the hallway in high school and you're dressed differently. That was social
Mhm.
anxiety. Not not looking at one of these things, type of situation.
Yeah.
Not the same.
Completely different dynamic, yeah.
Yeah.
But Greg, this has been awesome, man. Thank you so much
Thank
for having
you.
this conversation. It was great to hear your insights, the story, some of the lessons. Where should people go if they want to learn a little bit more about you or maybe a little bit more about
Sure.
Pineapple
I mean,
Academy?
I'm on LinkedIn, Greg Gorgone, easy to find me, and pineappleacademy.com. I mean, it's as simple as that.
Awesome, Greg. Thank you so much for your time. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
you.